launching pad in Sedona, Arizona. This is the Progressive Technology Hour, and I'm your host, Dr. Houdini. I would like to welcome you to a truly unique talk show program that focuses on exotic technologies. What are exotic technologies? Well, this includes such areas as free energy, gravity, anti-gravity control, the study of the nature of time, and time travel. We'll explore not only the technology, but also the how-to part of the technology. So let's have some fun today and explore the world of exotic technologies. Folks, I have a very special returning guest today, and his research is into scalar wave technologies and also a very fascinating topic here that we're going to be talking about, neutrino power. And his name is Professor Dr. Konstantin Meyl. Professor Meyl teaches the subject of power electronics and alternative energy technology at the University of Applied Sciences in Furtwangen, Germany. Being a 15-year-old pupil, he already carried out the first measurements on eddy current brakes. His dissertation at the Technical University of Munich back in 1979, as well as his doctoral thesis at the University of Stuttgart in 1984, were dedicated to three-dimensional calculations of eddy currents. You know, I first met Dr. Meyl at the Tesla Tech 2007 conference, which was held over there in Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah. And folks, you can go to my website, and I provide the link on Achieve Radio here, that you can go and check out this very fascinating conference. And Dr. Meyl gave a really fascinating discussion here. And part of his research, of course, deals with neutrinos and how they're interacting with the core of our planet. And he has a very fascinating theory in regards to the expanding Earth theory. And we're going to talk with Dr. Meyl today about this. And, you know, folks, there was an interesting movie out, which is probably still playing at some theaters. I kind of recommend it to the listeners out here to check it out. And it's a movie called 2012. And it's interesting to note that the start of the movie, you know, the first 20 minutes, deals with this neutrino interaction with the core of the planet. And how in 2012, the prediction is that there's going to be this massive neutrino output coming from the sun, which, of course, is interacting with the core of the planet and causing all these incredible natural disasters. And, there's also something else that's very interesting here in regards to Nikola Tesla. And, I want to read this interesting note here about Nikola Tesla. He wrote a similar theory back in 1935, folks, 1935, involving something Tesla called a primary substance. Tesla wrote in the New York Herald Tribune, and I quote, "Condensation of the primary substance is going on continuously. This being in a measure proved, for I have established by experiments which admit of no doubt that the sun and other celestial bodies steadily increase in mass and energy and ultimately must explode, reverting to their primary substance." Now, isn't that a fascinating paragraph here from Nikola Tesla? Something to really think about, folks. So without further ado here, I'd like to welcome Dr. Meyl. Dr. Meyl, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, Bill.
Hello, and welcome to the show.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Nikola Tesla's, what he wrote about here? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, the measurements of a neutrino flux are very new, and Tesla could not have known at that time that the neutrino is interacting with the core of the Earth. And this has been measured by the big neutrino detectors, just like the Kamiokande detector. And it's only a few years ago that we have got the results that these interaction happens, and now the physicists discuss, because they have measured on daytime 2 times more neutrino flux than on nighttime. That means 50% of the neutrino flux has interacted with the core of the Earth, and now they are discussing. And now they are discussing whether these neutrinos have changed their properties, or whether they have been absorbed. That means they still are in the core, and they changed, they materialized perhaps into matter, and they let the Earth grow. So this is the problem we are discussing today, and they are preparing new experiments, and they want to measure all sorts of oscillating neutrinos they know, so that they can be sure at the end that they have measured really everything.
Okay, well,
so this is a big problem.
Yeah, let me stop you right there. You said 2.5 times the difference between night and day. Is that correct?
True. Yes, that's 2 times more. At nighttime, we have only half. We have measured half of the neutrinos coming from the sun. That means the solar neutrinos.
Okay. So we're seeing some sort of interaction inside the planet.
And we know that the interaction of neutrinos is only the weak interaction, and this interaction they have measured is much more, so that we are able to change the physics and the ideas of physics. The basics of physics are wrong, and this really is a big problem.
Well, it seems to me, just in this little paragraph that Tesla wrote about in the New York Herald, it seems like he knew something about this. Now, of course, he didn't have the name neutrino. He just refers to a primary substance.
But
it seems like Nikola had the gist of the idea here that the planet, that not only the sun but also the planets are increasing in mass.
That's right.
In mass and energy over time.
That's right. Nikola Tesla has developed the neutrino long before Pauli has founded the name. And Pauli was in 1936 when he was calculating the energy balance of the beta decay of neutrons, and he has found out that the energy balance of energy is not fulfilled. And this is why he postulated particles he called neutrinos, and he said these particles are carrying the energy and the impulse, but these particles have no mass and no charge, which is a conflict in physics. And this conflict always had been well covered by the opinion that these particles are only postulated, they do not exist in reality. But in 1956, Davis Jr., I think it was, in America, they did the first experiments, and they proved that these neutrino flux exist in reality. And in 2002, the Nobel Prize had been given to the detection of neutrino. So these neutrinos are not only a postulation anymore, they exist in reality. And now the measurements of today show the quantity of these neutrino particles, and we know that they are carrying a lot of energy, and we have a lot of particles, and they really exist, and they carry more energy than the world needs for the hunger of energy. Mm-hmm. So this would be a solution, but the problem is how to interact with these particles. And Nikola Tesla wrote in the New York Times, I don't know the date when it was, but he was writing that there is a radiation coming from the sun and from other bodies in space, with very small, and with a very weak interaction that gives the possibility that these particles are not interacting with the Earth. That means that they are able to cross the Earth, the whole Earth, without being slowed down. That you are able to measure it. So this result Tesla has proved. So he is the real developer of neutrinos and not Pauli.
Well, in this, before. Well, Doctor, in this paragraph here, he mentions, and I quote here, "For I have established by experiments." So he must have a series of experiments that proves the existence of these neutrinos.
That's right, and this is why I have reproduced these experiments. I think in our last show we discussed these experiments,
right.
And I have reproduced the experiments, and I've shown that he is right. So as no particle we know has this property to pass through solid matter, then only the neutrino. This proves that Tesla really has developed. He is the developer of neutrinos. So this is provable. And another question is how he did it and how to reproduce it. And my way is that I always look at the nature, how the nature is doing it, and I want to learn from it. And then I think I'm quicker, because the nature is using such possibilities like using the power of neutrinos since a long time, longer than our technology is. And the biggest converter in our environment using neutrino flux is the Earth itself. Mm-hmm. So this is what we want to talk about today. And nowadays, it's not very long ago, I think 3 years, the NASA in America has published measurements of the Earth, showing a map. And I think you have this map. I have found it on your page. That this map, because I have shown it as well on this conference in Salt Lake City, and I think you have the slides on your homepage. Is it right, Bill?
Well, I have. With your lecture, you show a world map, and the listeners out there.
It's in the second line, and the second line in the middle. There you see the map, and this map shows, was measured, shows the Earth and inside with red lines, you have those places where the Earth is spreading off. There are the differences between 2 points are getting more and more year by year, and you have it marked in centimeters. And with blue lines, you have subduction, where the difference is getting less. And if you add all these centimeters with negative sign, the subduction, then in the average at the equator of the Earth, you have about 19 centimeter. The Earth is growing in the circumference year by year, about 19 centimeters.
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
that is fascinating.
And it's able to be measured very exactly because using satellites. And so nowadays we have possibilities at the time of Tesla we had not. And so these measurements are very exact on one hand. And now we have two possibilities to explain why the Earth is growing. One possibility is that the density is getting less. So the Earth would grow with a constant mass if the density is reducing. And, well, on the other hand, if you have a turning ball, and this turning ball is getting bigger, then you know that it is turning slower and slower. That is a consequence of the angular moment and impulse, turning impulse. Yes.
So that would, Doctor, that would explain what the hollow Earth, that the Earth is hollow?
Has nothing to do with the hollow Earth. If you have a ball, if it's fulfilled or hollow, it doesn't matter. If the ball is getting bigger, then it's getting slower. So this is a consequence in physics. And this means that we are able to measure the time, because we have very exact possibilities to measure the turning time by atomic clocks. And the best atomic clock we have in Germany is driven by the Physikalisch-Technische Bundesanstalt in Braunschweig, and this clock is controlling all the clocks in Middle Europe. So by long waves they are controlled. And this clock is very exact, and this clock is showing that the Earth is turning slower about 1 second a year. It is exactly in the average of the last 50 years, the time they are using this clock. They have measured about 0.73 seconds per year or something like this. And if you take this slowing down, this time difference, you are able to calculate what this time difference influences the growing of the Earth. Okay. And then if you calculate this, you find out if the density is getting less, then the growing should be 50 centimeters. And this is much more than they measure. So this is the wrong way. This is the wrong approach. And you have proved, because you know that you still have an influence from the moon, which is slowing down the Earth as well. But if you calculate this, you find a lot of calculations how the moon is influencing the Earth, and this is 1,000 or 10,000 times less. So this the influence may be neglected, you see. Of the moon. Here, another thing is slowing down the Earth, and now we have a second possibility, and the second possibility is that the mass is getting more and more.
Yes.
And if you put the density of the matter constant, and if you calculate that the mass is getting more and more, then you are able to calculate the effect, and you find out that the effect is 19 centimeters per year in the circumference, and this is exactly the value they have measured.
Uh-huh.
So we are able to prove, because we measure two things. We measure the time, the turning of the Earth, and we measure from satellite the size of the Earth. And if these two things fit together, and they fit together if the mass is getting more and more, then we know that this is the right answer and the only right answer. Well, I explain it in this way because Paul Dirac, the very famous physicist Paul Dirac, said that the density would getting less. And at his time, he couldn't prove. But nowadays, we are able to calculate, and we see that Paul Dirac was wrong with his approach. So
Okay.
this is very important, that we see that the mass is getting more. But if the mass is getting more, we have some effects. One is that at the time when the dinosaurs were living, how to pronounce it? Dinosaurs? These big animals. How do you pronounce
the dinosaurs?
it? Yes, the dinosaurs. Okay.
Yes.
At that time, the Earth had been smaller, and the weight
Yes.
of these animals had been less.
Right.
And this is why if you can't have these animals today, because the bones would break under the weight.
Yes.
80 tons perhaps. And this is, I would say a hint that the Earth is growing, and 60 million years before the Earth had been much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we are able to calculate all these things, and this is very important. And, the question at this point we have is, where is the mass coming from? And all these points, the German TV has produced these documentation film, which in English has the title "Turning the World on Its Head." And this film had been shown in the German TV on the ZDF for about two dozen times, and has been shown as well in France. And in the Russian TV and the Poland TV and the Arabian TV, but I don't know whether it has been shown in America. But I still have these English version, and the ZDF Enterprises is the company. They sell this film.
Doctor, yeah, we're gonna take a short break here.
Yes,
and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Houdini, and you're listening to the Progressive Technology Hour. and I have a very fascinating returning guest today, Konstantin Meyl, and we're talking about the expanding Earth theory and how neutrinos being emitted by the sun are interacting with the Earth's core. And in the first half hour of the show here, Dr. Meyl laid out, how this interaction is occurring. But, the real question is why is this occurring with the sun? And, in the movie 2012, they talk about a massive flux of neutrinos coming from the sun, causing massive, incredible Earth changes. And, back in 2005, I first became involved in this expanding Earth theory when I woke up one morning and knowing, I had this dream, this very bizarre dream that the Earth was growing. And, when I woke up and I says, boy, that's odd. What a strange dream I had. And then I went to the computer here and Googled, expanding Earth. And all this information came up, that I personally I'd never heard before. And I started researching it and getting into it. And I ran across a researcher by the name of Neil Adams. And I had him on my show several months ago. And he put together some very fascinating animations that of various celestial bodies referred to by Nikola Tesla that were growing in size. And he did these fascinating animations of the Earth, the Moon, Mars, and some moons, I believe, around Jupiter. And he was showing how the increase in mass and in size, and as they pull apart, creates continents. And we see that, the Earth, if you wound back the clock 250 million years ago, all the continents would fit together. But they only fit together under a smaller Earth. And at that time, the Earth was ruled by the dinosaurs. Okay. And of course, as I stated, the Earth was much smaller then, and all these continents, they all fit together. And then over time, the Earth grew in size, increased in mass. And, we were just talking about this with Dr. Meyl and about a program, a television program dealing with this subject. And Dr. Meyl is wondering if we can pick up on that right now. Could you go into more detail about this television program?
Well, hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
I go ahead. Yes, the problem we discussed, which is discussed as well on this TV film, is where is the mass coming from, which lets the Earth grow. And, Einstein says that mass and energy could be the same. That means that if energy is radiated into the Earth, then this could be a possible answer. But where is the energy coming from? And now we know that the neutrino flux is interacting with the core of the Earth, and this could be a possible answer. So what we need in physics is a model. We need to explain what happens. And I do the following experiment with my students. I ask them, what is your weight in the center of the Earth? And sometimes I get the right answer, that the weight is 0. There is no gravity. So this is the same situation you have in space. If you take a mixture of solid matter, of liquid matter, of gas, and so on, then at the end you get several levels. The bottom level will be the solid state, which is the crust of the Earth. And on this crust, you have the liquid matter, and then which is the water, and then you have the gas, which is the atmosphere. Well, it's all up to the density of the matter, you know. This is what we learn at school. And outside the atmosphere, the gas, we have the ionosphere, which is something like a plasma with charged particles, and outside the ionosphere there is the space. And there we have no gravitational force and zero gravity.
Well, Doctor, let me stop you right there. Has any experiments been done about measuring the gravity inside the planet?
Well, there had been measurements. Yes, there had been measurements, but we only are able to go a few thousand meters into the Earth, and this is nearly nothing. So the rest we have to calculate and we have to consider. And this is what I want to do. If we want to have zero gravity in the center of the Earth, then inside the crust of the Earth, we need to have liquid matter. And we know that the mantle of the Earth is liquid. Okay, this is correct. And inside the mantle, we have the core. The outer core should be gas, and the inner core should be plasma. This is the only way if you want to have zero gravity in the center of the Earth. Is it right? Mm-hmm. And this is a physical consequence. But what did you learn at school? The core of the Earth exists of.
Well, they claim that it's an iron. It's an iron core.
This is what we have learned, but this is wrong. You learn nonsense at school. It's impossible.
That's a good point.
Sorry, we learned the same nonsense in Germany. You see that it has to be gas and plasma, but the gas is under high pressure. And under high pressure, if you have, let me say, hydrogen consists of a proton and an electron in the shell of the atom, and the proton in the core. And if you have a hydrogen atom under high pressure, then it collapses into a neutron. This is a model. It's my approach. It's my opinion that it is collapsing into a neutron, and the neutron is not stable, but it is very small. That means there is no pressure anymore, and it's very heavy. So the weight is high. And, well, these neutron is not stable because we know that it is decaying, which is the beta decay, under the influence of neutrinos. That means the neutrino is carrying the difference of energy to the neutron, and the neutron decays at the end. So now we have two answers. We have the answer where the neutrino flux is interacting, where it is used, and how it is materialized. And the other answer is that we have a balance inside the core of the Earth, a balance of very heavy neutrons and very light gas. And in the average, the weight is the weight of iron, which we are able to measure from outside. But it is not iron. It is only the average of the weight, you see. Mm-hmm. And so this is a model, and this model explains. Well, I can't have a look inside the Earth, and I can't prove whether this model is right or not. But you need a consistent model, and this is important. And and I think in a few years they will find out that such a model has to be true, because I don't know another one. But in science, we are free. You are free as well to design your own model. If it is better, I listen to it.
Doctor, I thought of, if we're to measure, some sort of a gravity change, to prove out the theory that, the gravity is zero at the center of the Earth, that maybe, have a mission to an asteroid, and do the experiment on a smaller body might be a possible answer, that could answer that question.
Yes. Well, I think a lot of things are well understood today. My opinion is that all bodies in space, the sun as well, and the Earth and the other planets and so on, they are all growing. Well, the neutrino flux is the energy. The biggest sources of neutrino are the black holes. The black holes inside a galaxy, in the center of a galaxy, what they are doing is that they accelerate matter into speeds higher than the speed of light. And if the speed is higher than the speed of light, only under these conditions matter has the chance to leave a black hole, because the black hole is black, because everything, all matter, all light, which propagates with the speed of light or less, is not able to leave the black hole. That's why the black hole is black. And that means the neutrino flux, which is, the neutrinos, the biggest source is these black hole, is coming from them. And this is, the rest of the stars that had been eaten by such a black hole. And this matter is then spread off into space and is collected by other stars and by our sun. And because these neutrino radiation is much quicker than the speed of light, they have to be slowed down. And these big bodies like the sun are able to slow these neutrino flux down. Part of the neutrino flux is materialized and lets the sun grow. That's why the sun is getting a big ball at the end, and that means the sun is growing as well. And this radiation, part of this radiation, lets the sun shine. That means this is the energy which lets the sun shine, and not these postulated how it's called. I'll tell you later. Fusion, yes. Hot fusion, what they postulate in physics. Yes. That this hot fusion never exists. This is a big mistake. And the only fusion that is possible is the cold fusion and not the hot fusion. And the sun is not producing hot fusion. That's a big mistake. It is the energy source of the sun are the neutrinos. And a part of these, the third part of the neutrinos, which had been not slowed down, that means changed from strong neutrino flux to weak neutrino flux, is spread off of the sun. We call them the solar neutrinos. And the Earth and the other planets, they are using these weak neutrinos as their energy source. And let me take the Earth. The Earth is growing with these neutrinos as well. Mm-hmm. And the Earth would shine as well, but there is the crust which makes it impossible. But if you drill inside, you know that, or if you have a volcanus, then you know that it is very, well, there's light inside. It's shining. And the third part is the energy from the Earth coming out of the Earth, very weak, and which is the source of energy for the plants mm-hmm. and for the biosphere.
Well, Doctor, I heard that, with your theory here, it's producing or creating hydrogen, making hydrogen inside the planet, but it's also making other elements. So, for example, water, it's making water inside the Earth, and also hydrocarbons, like mm-hmm. oil, for instance. Yes. It's making oil inside the planet.
Yes, we have produced here in Germany. We have produced oil synthetically by using water with water vortex and CO2. And if you break the CO2, and then the carbon is producing by itself oil. So oil is not fossil. Fossil? Yeah, fossil. That means is not produced by wood or something like mm-hmm. this.
Right.
This is another mistake. It is produced in the core of the Earth.
I believe it's abiotic. I think the term is abiotic.
Yes. Okay, and it's produced inside the Earth, and so the Earth still is producing oil and gas. Mm-hmm. And these are other technologies we are still developing at the time, and you will read about it, I think, if we are successful in a few years. Mm-hmm. You see, if you want to calculate these things, especially the balance of the Earth, of the climate, then you need to add the energy of the neutrino flux. This is why all these discussions and all these calculations about the global warming are wrong, because global warming, they do not calculate the neutrino energy, which is captured by the Earth. And mm-hmm. if you calculate the climate and the change of the climate with a model which neglects about 98%, because 98% of the radiation from the sun is non-visible and is the neutrino flux. And if 50% of these are interacting with the core of the Earth, then if you neglect about 50%, then the whole calculation is good for nothing. You see what I mean. Mm-hmm. So the discussion of global warming and all this, what they have discussed, is really good for nothing. They have mm-hmm. to start again, because the neutrino flux tells you what happens with the Earth. Yes. And this is why I try to measure the neutrino flux from the sun, because I'm sure if we know the neutrino flux exactly, then we know what happens with the climate, and it may change from year to year, and And the neutrino flux interacts with the core of the Earth. That means you really have a force which is pulling and pushing the core of the Earth, and which means that the result are earthquakes. And this is why I gave a prediction about earthquakes in this TV film on the eclipse from 2006, and my prediction had been right. And this is why it is very good to have an exact model, and those who have the best model, they have the best answers, you see, especially for prediction of earthquakes.
Well, you're addressing a fundamental issue here. I mean, you're looking at the fundamental cause of what's going on.
Well, we have to. What's going on with the climate, or with what?
Well, the fundamental action of this neutrino flux, because with that you can build a much more exact model, of what especially with earthquake prediction.
Yes, well, the model I use for the neutrino is that the neutrino is oscillating. Well, we know that neutrinos are oscillating anyway, but the neutrino is oscillating between the size and the property of an electron and a positron. And that means if it is always oscillating, one time it is positive charged, the next time it's negative charged. In average, the charge is zero, but only the average is zero. The effective value is not zero, but we are not able to measure. You see, if you compare it with your power plants, you have in America, you have 110 volts and 60 hertz, isn't it? And that means 60 times per second, the polarity is changing. So in the average, the voltage is zero. But if you want to measure, you need an effective value measurement device, and this measures 110 volts, because this measurement device has to follow the oscillations. But if you have oscillations like the neutrino, which are at very, very high frequencies, higher frequencies than your measurement devices accept, then you can't measure these oscillations. And the result is the only thing you are able to measure is the average. And this is zero. And this is why they say the charge of a neutrino is zero, but this is wrong. You see, as a physicist, you always have to pay attention that if you say, I can't measure anything, you never are allowed to say that there is nothing. You see, I say all these physicists who say there is nothing because they have measured nothing, I say, put your hands on the network and you will see that there is something inside, you see.
Well, Doctor, we only have about a minute and a half left here. Is there something you would like to talk about before we close the show?
Yes, what I want to say is that I have written a new book, which is nearly 1 month old, not yet 1 month old, and we are just translating this book into English. The title will be Self-Consistent Electrodynamics. And this book has to do with the development of the German Helmholtz-Gesellschaft in Berlin, who have developed magnetic monopoles. And these magnetic monopoles are a conflict to the theory of Maxwell, especially to the fourth Maxwell equation that the divergence B is zero. And this is a real problem to physics, to the electrodynamics, to the classical electrodynamics, as if we have these results, then we are not able to use vector potential as is used everywhere in electrodynamics today, in the classical electrodynamics. And
okay, well,
means,
Doctor, we're out of time.
Okay.
It was a fantastic show. I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today.
Good. And I thank you for calling.
Yes, thank you very much.